You've heard the phrase a million times, right? Thoughts create reality. But have you ever really stopped to think about what that actually means? Well, today, we're going to dig in and do just that.
I mean, it's a huge question. Does the world around us, the chair you're sitting in, the air you're breathing, does it all just spring from our minds? Or is the connection between our thoughts and reality maybe a little more subtle? We're going to explore this whole thing through a really fascinating online discussion.
And for this explainer, our source is pretty unique. We're looking at a blog post from 2010 on a site called Macy Afterlife, the Beacon. And what's so cool is we're not just looking at the post itself, but the whole comment section that follows. It's a perfect little snapshot of how these big ideas get tossed around and shaped by a community.
So the thing that kicked this entire conversation off is a message that supposedly comes from, well, a pretty unusual place.
Okay, so according to the blog, this message was basically planted in a computer back in 1990 by a spirit entity named Swejen Salter. Now look, whether you believe that or not isn't really the point here. What is important are the ideas in the message itself, because that's what gets everyone talking.
And listen to the wording here, it's really specific. It says we can help form reality. It doesn't say we create it from scratch. That's a huge difference, right? It makes us sound more like participants, not the sole architects. And check out that last part. Their reality is described as just as real and solid as ours, not some floaty dream world.
So let's just nail this down. The big takeaway from this message is that distinction between forming and creating. Our thoughts can influence and shape a world that already exists, but one person's mind doesn't just will things into being. It's more of a team sport, not a solo mission.
Of course, as you can imagine, not everyone in the comments section was just nodding along. A skeptic jumped in to push back, especially against the more extreme versions of this idea.
Yep, a commenter named Leslie Harris decided to take the most radical interpretation of this concept and, well, put it to the test.
So Harris isn't really arguing with Salter's more nuanced point. He's going after the really out there version, the idea that the physical world is a total illusion and that if you stop thinking about something, it literally just poof, ceases to exist. He argues that this claim, unlike the other one, is actually testable. And this is where it gets fun. So how would you do it? How do you prove that the world around you isn't just something you're dreaming up?
This is where Harris's point lands with a thud, literally. He proposes the brick test. His logic is, well, it's blunt, but it's simple. If someone truly believes reality is an illusion, drop a brick on their head. If they weren't thinking about the brick, it shouldn't exist, right? So it couldn't hurt them. It's a pretty effective argument for there being a real, objective, physical world out there.
Okay, so fast forward a few years. The conversation on this blog post is still going, and another person chimes in with a totally different model, one that kind of builds a bridge between these two opposing views.
In 2018, a commenter named Bob Chakra joins the chat with a take that says, hey, maybe both sides have a point. He puts forward a model that respects the power of thought but keeps our feet planted firmly on the ground.
And here's his core argument. He suggests that in our denser domain, our physical world, thought alone just isn't enough. It's the starting point, for sure. It's the blueprint, but it needs to be paired with physical action to actually bring an idea to life.
And this just makes so much practical sense, doesn't it? Think about any invention in history. It started as an idea, a concept in someone's head. But it didn't just pop into existence. Someone had to sketch it, build it, test it. It's this powerful practical partnership. The thought is the beginning, the action makes it real.
So after looking at all these different viewpoints, what can we take away? What's the real nature of our influence on reality?
When you boil it all down, the central debate here is pretty clear. On one side, you've got the extreme view that reality is just a mental construct. And on the other, you have the original message from the source, that thought helps influence a reality that's already here and very tangible.
What's amazing is that this one conversation on a blog reveals this whole spectrum of belief. It goes from the pure illusion idea that was challenged by the brick test, all the way to this very practical model of thought plus action.
And that's really the question this whole thing leaves us with, isn't it? Where on this spectrum does our true influence lie? Is reality something we just react to? Is it something we create entirely out of nothing? Or is the truth somewhere in that powerful middle, where our thoughts are the seeds and our actions are what make them grow? The answer might just shape the world you live in.